Okay, here we go with Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is a very interesting study, as you notice that most of these chapters contain within themselves a complete course. In other words, developing through the lifespan, that is a complete course. Uh, Personality, that is a complete course. Emotions is a complete course. And so the point that I'm making here is that we have a great deal of material in one chapter. This particular chapter here, developing through the lifespan, is not only an important chapter, it's not only an important course to take, but there are some schools, institutions, who develop their entire psychological program around the development in the lifespan and how individuals develop. Certainly, we have the concept of nature versus nurture. It's relatively simple. Individuals like to complicate it and argue which is the most important and which is the best. I don't go there. What I'm looking at here is nature is what we inherit, plain and simple. Nurture is what we take in from our environment. Uh, some individuals, some theories that oppose any aspect of nature playing a part in our development, and there are some individuals that oppose the concept of nurture. Well, let's put them together. Let's forget about the conflicting views and let's put them together as they should be so we can see the development of the individual. The individual starts with the development, and of course, it starts with conception, and I've broken this down. This is the beginning, and we go through growth period, not only during the gestation period, but as an infant, as to the child in the play years, school years, going to puberty, high school, all comprised with adolescence, and then the emerging adult, and then we have the adult, and then we have the individual in the last stage of their life, which Erik Erikson calls integrity versus despair. This will be two areas that we will look at. Jean Piaget had one stage of development. He had 5 stages, and he talks about the development, which we are going to on page 181 in your text. And then Erik Erikson, divided the growth stages into 8 stages. So we have 5 stages and 8 stages. But let's go back here. We're starting with the egg and the sperm. The egg, when the female is born, has all of the immature eggs that they're ever going to have. The male continues to make sperm pretty much throughout the lifetime. And at the start of the manufacture of sperm, there's about 1,000 sperm per second. Male becomes a regular sperm factory, you might say. Then we take the egg plus the sperm. We have a embryo, fetus, develop, and an infant. Now, I want you to imagine children in these stages. I want you to imagine yourself in these stages. And again, how far can you think back? You probably have photographs of when you were an infant, when you were growing up, 3 to 4 years old, 5 years old, in the play years, and in the school years. And imagine the influences and how your life develops. From ages 3 to 6, we have a rapid growth in frontal lobes, and this also helps with motor development and cognitive skill. I can back up just a second there and visit with you about teratogens. The word teratogen means monster. Fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, is a teratogen. And this teratogen is consumed during the gestation period by the mother, getting into the bloodstream and affecting the child. At one time, and this has been a while back, there was a med that was given that was called thalidomide. And I believe it was to ease morning sickness. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, at that time, it had an adverse effect on the fetus, the developing fetus, and they were being born without legs, without arms, or other deformities. And so thalidomide, of course, was taken off of the market. But at one time, thalidomide was supposed to be a fairly safe med to take during the gestation period by the mother, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. So that would be considered a teratogen or a monster. Now, at the age 3 to 6, and you imagine children, you have to put this in your own mind and think about this, the motor development. You take a 3-year-old and you watch what the 3-year-old does, we'll say, on a playground, as compared to a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and how rapidly they develop in strength and thought processes and memory and cognition. Jean Piaget basically talked about the cognitive development of children, and he talked about how children learn, they assimilate, and they accommodate. In other words, if they learn new information, we'll say that they learn the concept of a cow, C-O-W. Okay, 4 legs, hair, head, tail. It's possible then, and once that they've learned this concept, they've assimilated this concept, then they start to connect other animals with 4 legs, a head, and a tail. And possibly, not always, but possibly, they may see a dog, and this could be reverse also, but they would call it a cow. But after a while, their mind learns to accommodate the concept of a dog, and then the concept of a horse. And this is basically how children learn, not only how children learn, but how we learn throughout life. On page 181 is Piaget's stages of development. That might be well to check. A concept that I have in children in orphanages, and we wonder about touch, and we're going to be talking about touch in the 5 senses and perception, I believe, in the next chapter. But there were these children in an orphanage. This is the World War II in Europe, and they had these children lined up in a hospital room, and they noticed that the death rate was quite high in those children that were in the middle of this line. The children on each end seemed to survive and survive quite nicely. Well, they observed this then, an unobtrusive type observation to see what was happening. And what was happening, when the cleaning ladies went in to clean out the floor and dust and so forth, they would clean a little bit, and then they would go and touch and play and hold the babies on one end. And then when they were cleaning on the other end of the room, they would touch and hold the babies on the other end. So they come to the conclusion that this is why the children had a better, or the infants had a better survival rate on each end of the line, is just because of touch. Now on page 202, we have Erikson's 8 stages of development. And one particular stage in this is the adolescent stage, which is identity versus role confusion. This is a very important stage, and identity is a very important concept because we all attempt to develop some type of identity, whether it is how we wear our hair, if we have hair, the clothes that we wear, identifying with groups, identifying with concepts. We have to think about this, the identity. Some individuals identify with a tattoo. They have a certain tattoo and that gives them identity, or maybe the number of tattoos gives them identity. So identity is an important concept in the development of individuals. We can discuss this a little bit further, and this will be discussed further in your later classes in psychology, just how powerful identity is. Okay, until the next chapter then, this pretty much concludes what we have to talk about now. I hope you're getting your assignments in. Again, if you have any concerns, let me know and we will take it from that point. So, until the next video, we'll be seeing you.